talk to my dad on the way to Guy's, and I was kind of close enough where it's like close enough to Guy's house right now. I don't want to. Just gonna come back to this video whenever I leave. Long fucking story short, I go to the hospital. I'm all fucked up. They run blood work on me, and they tell me I have hepatitis C. And it was like brandy new to my system when they had found it. And that sucked really bad. Like, it'd be like Gattaca scenes. Like, I'd take baths. You know, I'm undiagnosed OCD at the time. And I've never been a crazy germaphobe. But I also don't like fucking viruses. Like, I don't fucking like to have a dirty fucking disease caught in the means that I caught it. I'd take hot showers and fucking hot baths, just sit there and fucking scrape my body with a loofah, like, till I was red, like, just crying, because I felt so fucking dirty. And I had the type, that was more reactive to treatment if I'd get on like a 6-month chemotherapy, pretty much, some ribavirin and some other kind of coupled medication. And I'm like, alright, so I go start seeing a gastroenterologist about this. And right before I went to get on the treatment, I got sentenced to prison. I was only up there for 7.5 months. But it's like, imagine being picked up out of a toy machine and getting dropped in to 7.5 months of fucking extra hell. It's not a fun time. And I was up there just long enough to not be able to start any kind of Hep C medication. And when I got back, I was like, okay, like, here I go. I like need to get back to the gastroenterologist and get this fucking treatment. And they do a new round of blood work, and then the doctor calls me and was like, hey, we're gonna do one more round of blood work on you. And I'm like, alright. So I go get some more fucking blood work, and they tell me that my viral load was non-detectable. And I'm like, what's that mean? And they're like, that means that you are actually in remission right now. And if you remain with a non-detectable viral load for 6 months, you're cured. And I'm like, how's that possible? And they said 15% of even the gnarliest viruses, like HIV and AIDS and shit, can clear itself from the body on its own. It's a spontaneous, and it's a miracle cure of your own system of this virus. And they kind of chalked it up to my liver was so healthy because I've never been a drinker. It's like, I've abused shit, but then not abused other shit like alcohol, where it was like, whoo, really came in handy. And so I didn't go back for a couple of fucking years. Never went back. I was so distraught and so devastated having to potentially go and hear again that this shit came back, that I just walked around like always very cautious, and into that sloppy period coitus and shit. And now that I'm thinking about that, like, I don't know. That doesn't look good either, actually. Like, any situation where you're slopping around in somebody else's blood, it doesn't look fucking great. Ew, now that I'm thinking about, ew. So anyway, never went back. Then I ended up having to get a real gyno's appointments work done. It was like my yearly STD test, all this shit. And it all came back negative. Thank you. But they're like, hey, they called me. They're like, do you know that you used to have hepatitis C? And I'm fucking shocked. Because that's something that's like a specific test. Like, that's something that's not tested for normally. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, like, how do you know? And like, you said did? And they're like, yeah, you don't have it. They're like, but you have the marker in your blood. And I'm like, what's that? And they said, pretty much, when your blood comes into contact with hepatitis C, certain markers in your blood go, whee! like something happens in your blood where there's a flag thrown up. It's like a stain that remains. Like, there's no hepatitis C. It's non-detectable and it's gone. But your blood is marked. Like, your blood has a flag up. And it doesn't go down. Like, once you've come into contact, your markers are like, you're fucked! And they just like sit there with their fucking hands up. Pretty much. And before I went to the mental hospital, it was like November. And like November of 2020. Oh, I was so fucking sick. And I know that I was sick as fuck with some kind of a very real virus. Because I had a strange reddish tint to my stool. And the only symptom I ever had of the hepatitis C virus when I had it was a reddish tint to my stool. So I was sick as fuck. Literally, for sure, know that I had come into contact with a very real C.19 virus. And by the time I went to the mental hospital, late January of 2021, there were clearly people there who were mentally disturbed and needed psychiatric help, for sure. People who had been struggling with massive problems for a while. And I still cannot get over the fact of how much of that is fucking permanent when you're spiritually awakened and you actually have a fighting fucking chance against negative entities and spiritual problems. But then there were a group of people who were business owners and shit and normal people. This one lady, she was in recovery, but she worked at the fucking hospital. She literally worked at the hospital. And in November, we had all been sick in November. And by January, we're all there together with the same kinds of fucking problems. And the hospital's telling us, you guys don't have COVID. During a pandemic, weren't even fucking looking around at most people, weren't even fucking checking them out, just going, you're just crazy. You're just crazy if you think that you're sick. And like me, I tested negative by the time I got there, because it's fucking 2 months later. Like, I had downward spiraled. And it was 2 months fucking later. So I'm talking to these people, and I started with my fucking markers, because they don't let you have anything that'll stick or poke anybody in there. So I'm sitting there with markers, like, fucking investigating. And me and all of these people were all, and everybody in that place, the common denominator between genuinely fucked up people and people who were going through dark nights of the soul type shit was the show Supernatural and a handful of shows. So I'm going, oh fucking K, this sucks. Alright, so what else do we all have in common? What the fuck? Like, same make and model type shit. And I knocked because this like PTSD military, like, autism spectrum veteran, knocked him off because he wasn't a drug user. And he was also the only one in that place that didn't have, like, COVID tongue, like, motherfuckers in there with, like, COVID toe symptoms and stuff, and I'm just like, I had fucking, my mouth was fucked up, and I'm like, okay, so, us four, we were all drug addicts. I said, how many of you IV drug used? And the three people put their hands up, and I'm like, okay, be honest. I said, because once you've IV drug used, it's like you're in the 90 percentile. Like, you are at a 90% chance going to wind up with hepatitis C. And I'm like, all right, guys, like, this is uncomfortable to talk about, but how many of you have hepatitis C, or know that you have hepatitis C, or suspect it? And all three of them knowingly and admittedly had hepatitis C. And I'm going, holy fuck. Like, that shit, I highly suspect, attacks people differently who have predisposed problems. And I've found information about this that I'm going to share on here as soon as I check when I got my channel strike and wait till my 90 days is over, which it should be hopefully pretty soon, about other links and stuff that people are making between things like that. And then I noticed that I had COVID like 4-ish times after this, but I had no reddish tint to my stool. Okay. And I had taken a couple of COVID tests, and I wasn't feeling great, and these tests were positive. And then I would take another test and it'd be negative, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I know that I'm not fucking, I know I'm fucking sick in some way. I don't fucking feel good, and I'm not a hypochondriac, and it's not my OCD. I'm fucking sick. And the other people around me aren't sick like this, and it hit me in the fucking head. I never got hit in the chest with anything COVID-like. It was my head. And then I'm going, Like, is this shit even fucking real? Or I felt like I was being spiritually fucking attacked, and I didn't even know anything about spirituality or attacks or any of this shit. And I'm like, no, I'm fucking duly noting this shit in my mind, though, and I'm keeping track. And it felt like maybe because I had this fucking antenna, possibly, with the fucking Hep C marker activated in my blood, that I felt like a magnet, like fucking energies that would go through me that came and like contacted these markers were like fucking with me. I'm like, and I'm keeping fucking calm. I'm literally just going, all right. Because I was in the process of doing my shadow work, and I'm getting fucking wrecked spiritually. And I'm just going, all right. I feel like I'm playing a game, and I gotta keep pushing. Literally. I was fucking terrifying. Literally fucking terrifying. And that's a liver fucking problem. And when I had that, it felt like this is why people start specializing in where entity attachments are anchored in somebody's body. Like, there are people out here who know, with full understanding, that these entities anchor into people's fucking kidneys. They like anchor into your fucking gut. They like anchor into your weak spots and shit. Let alone the fucking reptilian shit with them fucking clutching onto people's backs and like sucking on. Like, fuck out of here. This shit's a fucking problem. And the PTSD military vet, I gotta go, I'll just part 3 this in a sec. He had only the anthrax jab. He was mentally disturbed and was like discharged from the army. And like, the only thing because he wasn't about the COVID, the only thing he had was the anthrax vaccine, and he was good. Like, this dude had never had a symptom. Then I'm really cool with these people down at, like, my local gas stations and stuff, and like, normal fucking people that I know who are the wives of military members who had also at the time not had COVID vaccines for whatever reasons, but the wives, they're getting fucked up, and these military guys were fine and only had the anthrax and whatever other fucking shit. Guy rattled off his fax list to me, and I'm like fucking ill. I'm like, they fucking did? They put all that shit in you? Then you gotta eat shit. When you expose yourself to people like this and don't realize it yet. Like, Guy is the only person that I've slept with who has a couple of rounds of those in. And then I'm just like I'm fucking constantly in an exposure boat, and expose myself to it through sexual shit. So it's just like, yeah, I'll talk about this shit because I'm fucked. Like, everybody's fucked. Like, it's like even the smart ones who didn't get it, like, fuck. Better watch it. I'll be back.